Welcome back to part 2 of understanding the metric and imperial system and how to convert one to another. In the last video, part 1, I covered volume and how to convert that, gallons, quarts, cups, liters, and milliliters. Today, I'm going to cover distance and length. Now, understanding the difference in length can be a little bit complicated, but we'll try to make it as easy as possible to understand and how to convert it as well. Now, the imperial system, we have inches, feet, yards, and miles. We know that there's 12 inches to a foot, 3 feet to a yard, and for some reason we also know there's 5,280 feet to a mile. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why they teach us that in school. At least I learned that in school. But these measurements never really made a ton of sense to me. It's just what we were taught and what we grew up with, so we know that system. And bonus points if you know how many yards there are to a mile, because I have no clue. Now, the metric system is very similar in all regards, where it goes by powers of 10. Tens, hundreds, thousands, and the units for the metric system are centimeters, meters, and kilometers or kilometers. Now, there's 100 centimeters to 1 meter and 1,000 meters to 1 kilometer. Okay, but why 100 centimeters? Why a cent or centi? Well, going back to the Latin base language, centi means 100 or 1 out of 100. You're probably familiar with the penny or 1 cent, or in other words, 1 out of 100. So 100 centimeters makes up 1 meter, but how long is a meter? Well, going off of the imperial system, we know that 3 feet equals 1 yard, and 1 yard is actually pretty close to 1 meter. It's actually only 3 inches shorter. 1 meter is equal to 1 yard and 3 inches. Now, this might not seem like a big difference, but when you start measuring longer distances, it does add up pretty quickly. For example, if you have 100 meters, that is now comparable to 109 yards. That's about 27 feet difference. So in other words, 100 meters is essentially a full football field and one of the end zones. But how do we compare miles and kilometers? For some reason, whenever somebody hears the word kilometers or kilos, their brain just shuts off. They don't even want to hear it. Not to dig on anybody, but it reminds me of like the older generation just shutting off the idea of learning new technology. It's like if you're born in the States and you just work with the imperial system, the word kilos, kilometers just automatically, I don't want to deal with it. But let me break it down in a way that it's a little easier to understand. 1 mile is equal to 1.61 kilometers. And I know it doesn't make much sense yet, but that's because we're working with 2 completely different systems. Whatever miles you have, the easy math is to times that number by 1.6. If you're driving 10 miles an hour, so 16 kilometers an hour. If you're driving 20 miles an hour, the conversion rate of 1.6 is around 32 kilometers per hour. But doing that math isn't super simple. Not everybody can just times any number by 1.6. For example, I can't do 72 miles an hour times 1.6. Like I just don't have an idea of what that would be. An easier way, which seems more complicated because there's more steps to it, but it is much easier, is to take 10% of your original number. So let's say we're working with 50 miles. We're converting miles to kilometers. First, you want to add half of the original number. So working with 50, you want to add half of that, which is 25. So you get a total of 75 at the moment. And then you want to add your 10% of your original number, which was 5, and you'd get a total of 80 or 80 kilometers. I know it's more steps, but it is the easiest way to kind of convert that in your head, and it will be pretty close, pretty accurate. So let's say you're working with something like 200 miles. How many kilometers is that? Well, you want to start off by adding half of that number. So in this case, it would be 100. So you're a total of 300. And then you want to add the additional 10% of the original number, which was 200. So now we're adding 20. So you get a total of 320 kilometers. Again, it's not the exact number, but it's pretty close. And to get you kind of the rough idea of how far that is and how to convert that. Now, converting kilometers to miles is a little trickier. And that's because kilometers are a smaller unit and can be more precise. Now, we use a very similar method, just in reverse, and it is a little trickier because it's not by 10%, rather it's by 12%. So let's say we have 100 kilometers. You want to half that first to 50, and then you add 12% of the original number. In this case, the original number was 100. That's an easy one, 12. So you'll add the 12 to the new number 50 to get 62 miles. And just remember, guys, these are just rough estimates, and it's just an easier way to convert miles to kilometers, kilometers to miles when you're dealing with real world situations. Now, I was never taught this in school, and so I figured that other people might not have either. But if you ever need to travel to a different country and someone tells you, hey, that's 30 kilometers away, you should be able to know what that means and how far that is. Or if you're visiting the States for the first time and somebody tells you that Disneyland is 500 miles away, you'll know that it's about 800 kilometers. Now, I know this isn't the most simple math and the most simple ways of converting it. There might be better ways to do it, but I hope that this sort of makes sense to you guys. I know it's not super easy to learn something new that's kind of boring, but that's going to do it for this part, this video. Stay tuned for the next one when I try to explain how to convert weights and mass. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.